Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, one and only AR Legends, and yeah guys, today I am back with another series which is going to be what if Naruto was exiled from his world and went to an alternative world. So yeah guys, hopefully you guys enjoy this series as it is going to be quite a great idea, and hopefully you guys will like the series as well. So yeah guys, if you guys are new to this channel or if you guys have not subscribed yet, please guys do so. It would be a lot helpful to me. And yeah guys, I have also put the link of my Instagram within the description below, so please follow me on Instagram as well. And yeah guys, without any further ado, let's start the video. As I'm gonna start my video as 23-year-old Naruto was looking towards, you can say, the broken farm of one Madara Uchiha. As all those years has passed in the beginning of this whole fourth ninja conflict, Naruto thought that it would not take much of a time. After all, the shinobi forces were so much, and while on the other hand Akatsuki maybe consist of S-rank shinobis, it will not take that much. But he was wrong, so much wrong, as this whole conflict took at least, he doesn't remember much at this point. After all, the losses that he has suffered of his friends, all of his loved ones are dead in this whole, you can say, the conflict of a madman, as he was looking towards, you can say, the dying but still smirking farm of Madara Uchiha. After all, it has taken over 7 years to take him down, as Naruto's body was still, you can say, in his sage mode form. After all, he was already exhausted of the form of the Biju he was able to take, but he had a sense of dread and, you can say, a sense of loss, even though all the shinobis, which were not that much, mind you. After all, the elemental nations suffered greatly by the hands of one Madara Uchiha, as Madara was able to destroy all the 5 villages. And at this point, there was no Suna, Konoha or any other village remaining, only the shinobis or the forces which fight off the control of Madara. In the beginning, Naruto was able to disturb the plan of Madara by, you can say, extracting the bijus that were sealed inside of the Gedomasu, at which some of the bijus insisted that they should be killed off. After all, they are immortal and they will come back at the later time, but it will give them some time, as Madara will not be able to complete his plan with heavy heart. Naruto had no choice with the, you can say, help of Kurama, who was also not happy, but he was the one who advised it, as he was able to kill off some of the bijus, which angered Madara even further, as he retaliated by destroying the elemental nations even further. And the whole thing even carry on, as Madara was persistent at this point, as he waited for the bijus to come back so that he can complete his plan. And he did that, even though Naruto tried his best, as well as the remaining shinobis that were with him, to save the bijus, but to no avail, as Madara was still able to capture them once again. And this whole thing dragged on, but at this point Naruto was finally, all the bijus gave Naruto their power, their very life essence. They were able to grant him, to give him a heavy boost, as Naruto was able to beat the Edo Tensei army of Madara, as well as beat him down to the ground. But Madara was still smirking, that was the thing, as the moon, as Naruto was simply looking toward the dread in his eyes. Madara, in his own, you can say, madness, tried to use the power of the bijus he was able to capture, reflecting his power to the moon, trying to, you can say, bring on the infinite Tsukuyomi without even using the full power of the 10 tails. That was a mistake, as moon was moved from his gravitational axis, and at this point simply coming down towards the earth, as Naruto was simply looking towards the moon, as Madara was laughing, as Naruto already knew why the Uchiha was laughing. He was mocking him, saying that how, even after all of these years of fighting and things like that, he was unable to protect his loved ones. After all, the rookie 9s or rookie 12, to be safe, are already dead by the hands of Madara and his Edo Tensei and things like that. Even Sasuke Uchiha died. As Naruto was simply looking towards the moon, all the shinobis trying to run away, but Naruto was not moving. It was next to impossible to move away from this place. After all, something of the size of moon was gonna land on earth, which means only one thing: the world as they know it now has finally come to an end. As Uchiha was still laughing, as Naruto did not pay him much mind whatsoever, as Madara simply smirked at that. What do you say now, QB brat? Ha! Did you really thought me that Madara Uchiha, would be defeated by you? If I simply cannot have this world for myself, then no one shall have it. I am an Uchiha, an elite. As he started to laugh even further, as Naruto paid him no mind, as Naruto saw the shinobis who were desperate, trying to run as far as they could, simply running away. Even Orochimaru was simply, you can say, trying to think of some jutsu. After all, Orochimaru, you can say, turned on the elemental nations when he joined the side of Madara Uchiha to bring on even more, you can say, the Edo Tensei army and things like that. As Orochimaru was sweating at this point, there was no way in hell he's gonna survive this anymore. It seemed that the elemental nations are finally gonna end and pay for their crimes. As Naruto simply had a small smile on his face as one voice speak up in his mind. Well, brat, it was a great journey if I must say. As Naruto simply chuckled at that. You're not worried, huh? Do you really think that you can come out of it as well, huh, Kurama? As Kyuubi simply chuckled as he said, well, I have lived millennia as well as I am an immortal brat. Even if I were to cease to exist at this point, because even I am not arrogant enough to think that I can survive the destruction of this whole planet. Though, even if it were to be the case, I have lived centuries. I have seen kingdoms rise and fall. It is nothing new to me, kid. Even though you are my first friend as a human. And I must say, it was a great journey. As Naruto simply closes his eyes, yeah, it was a great journey, I suppose. And finally, the moon slammed to the earth, and a gigantic explosion were to be occurred. As Naruto, last thing Naruto heard was the mocking laugh of one Madara Uchiha as everything gone blank. Now, let us start the story from here. As a kid was still running through the forest as he had a gigantic scroll in his hand as one Chunin was following it. This kid is none other than a 13-year-old Naruto Uzumaki who was trying to run away as quickly as he actually could as he saw Chunin Mizuki was running after him as Iruka tried to save him. Even Naruto tried to pull off, you can say, the multi-shadow clone jutsu. But the Mizuki was somehow ready for it as he started to use some type of strange liquid. After that, he transformed into some type of creature and started to fight off against Naruto and destroying all of his clones. After that, Iruka told him to run with the scroll, but to no avail. Mizuki was still following it. There was no way that he could run anymore as Naruto was simply looking towards the Mizuki who was still, you can say, blowing off his shadow clones as they were nothing. As well as laughing, trying to kill him as Naruto was feeling pure utter dread. After all, he was a 13-year-old kid and the Chunin who somehow had transformed into a monster was coming towards him. But before he could even blink as Iruka was also watching this and before he could scream the name of his, you can say, best student as suddenly a knee slammed into the face of the transformed Chunin, sending him flying through the forest as one person landed and suddenly vanished. Only thing Iruka saw was a flash and nothing more than that. While on the other hand, you can say, last thing they heard was you can say, Mizuki slamming into the ground and transforming back into his regular form, beaten and broken body. But before Iruka or Naruto could understand the situation or what was actually going on, suddenly several Ambu landed beside Iruka as well as Naruto, and third Hokage has finally arrived as Iruka finally let out a sigh of relief. Seeing that how the Ambu has arrived, which means that the shinobi who has beaten down Mizuki must be a Ambu as well. As Naruto was simply had tears going through his eyes as Tadokage looked towards Naruto with sad expression on his face. After all, he had heard that how Mizuki was telling him that how he was a QB, and after that he dashes towards the forest trying to comfort the, you can say, the little boy. As Tadokage as well as his Ambu watched that how a unknown shinobi quickly knocked out Mizuki as if he was nothing, as Tadokage was a bit surprised after seeing the transformation of Mizuki, and now he had a bit of suspicion who could be behind it as he quickly signaled Ambu to take Iruka to the hospital. As he looked towards Naruto, as he said, Naruto-kun, are you alright? As Naruto simply nodded dumbfoundedly, but tears were still coming to his eyes as Tadokage sighed and gave him a bit of comfort and telling him that how he was not the QB and things like that. And just to make Naruto happy, after seeing that the multiple shadow clones, he finally gave Naruto a headband which made the kid pretty happy. But at the moment, Tadokage had different thoughts going through his mind as he signaled his Ambu to see the location of the shinobi who was at this point unconscious to the ground. As the Ambu quickly grabbed him as Naruto was sent in his way to the hospital with the help of an Ambu, as Tadokage was a bit confused as he said, who is this shinobi? Do any of you recognize him? As none of them said anything, as they simply shook their head, as you can say, Tadokage looked towards the face of Naruto, which was bloody. His, you can say, whole body or his whole clothes were torn apart at this point, as they have several slash marks and things like that. As one of the Ambu speak up, Lord Hokage, he's low on chakra, there is chakra exhaustion. As Tadokage simply nodded, alright, bring him to the hospital, but put him at a special section. No one is allowed to visit him or anything like that. As they simply nodded at that and quickly bring him to the hospital, while on the other hand Tadokage was a bit confused at this point, as well as quite quite worried at the same time as well that Shinobi, he was a bit similar to someone, or especially the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze, even though there was blood all over his face and body, that you can say the blonde hairs and the whole structure, it was making him think of someone, but he simply shook his head. It was simply not possible, even though a thought came to his mind, but he simply shook his head. Alright, as he quickly rushed towards the hospital, it seemed that the duties of the Hokage no bounds, as after some time third Hokage was looking towards the face of the person, as now he was quite concerned as he looked towards his personal doctor as he said, well, where is the report of the blood test? As the doctor simply looked towards the third Hokage as he said, well, Lord Hokage, this is the report you told me to bring. As third Hokage grabbed the report and started to see, he has conducted a blood test of this person, even though he tried to find, after searching on his body, they found a headband of Konoha, but third Hokage was more than sure that this person, or he was not a shinobi of his village, so he decided to conduct a blood test, and now the report was in his hand. As third Hokage hand, you can say, shake a little. There were 3% at which the blood matches. There was 60% match to Minato Namikaze, 40% match to Kushina Uzumaki, and there is 100% match to one Uzumaki Naruto. As third Hokage's eyes hardened a little as he looked towards the Hokage, are you sure this report is correct? As the doctor simply nodded at that. He was, you can say, one of the top Ambu and the doctor for the Ambu and things like that. So he simply was quite high ranking. As the doctor simply nodded at that, I was quite shocked at the moment, Lord Third, but our records say that his blood definitely matches that of. As Third Hokage started to think, how is that even possible? Minato's blood has matched with this person, and on top of that, Naruto's blood as well. There is no thing as 100 match of anything. Even the twins does not have, you can say, 100 match with things like that. And even if, you can say, some other theories came to his mind, it was simply not possible. As he simply shook his head, alright, as signaled one of his Ambu to bring him Inuichi Yamanaka. After all, it seemed that this definitely concerns the security of his village at this point. As he looked towards the doctor, as he said, you already know this situation is an S-rank secret. As the shinobi simply nodded at that, of course, Lord Hokage. As after some time, Inuichi Yamanaka has finally arrived. As Inuichi looked towards the Hokage, well, Lord Hokage, you summoned me. As Hokage simply nodded at that, well, Inuichi, I could have summoned any member of your clan, and I know that you have already quit being a, you can say, interrogator. But at this moment, I need the help of your services. As Inuichi raised an eyebrow, and what might be the condition, Lord Hokage? As Hirozen simply shook his head as he said, well, can you see the shinobi? As Inuichi simply nodded at that, I want you to go into his mind, but not go alone. I want you to bring me in his mind as well. I want to see who he actually is, even though I have some suspicions of my own, but they are simply out of this world, and I just want to confirm some things before I come to any solid conclusion. As Inuichi was a bit confused but nodded nonetheless, as I said, alright, Lord Hokage, if you say so. As he finally decided to perform his jutsu on the unconscious form of the 22-year-old shinobi. As you quickly go through hand sign, and finally you can say Hiruzen put his hand to his back as both of their, you can say, body slump a little. And after that, finally, both of them opened their eyes as Inuichi was quite confused. This was strange. Really, really strange. As after all, he has went into the minds of many people, but nothing is like that. There was a destroyed, utterly destroyed city as all of them started to look around, while on the other hand, Third Hokage had a face of pure utter horror and terror on his face as he look around to see the destroyed form of his beloved home Konoha everywhere. As he looked down to see, they were standing on the Hokage monument. The first Hokage and second Hokage face is almost as if a crater was formed into it. Even his own face was utterly smashed and destroyed. And after that, he's the face of fourth Hokage, but the other thing shocked him even further was the face of his beloved student Tsunade, and on top of that another face which looked quite similar to this person's face as well. As at this point, he was quite confused. This was not something which was making up. As he decided to look around, as he looked towards Inuichi. What is this, Inuichi? As Inuichi simply shook his head. Well, Lord Hokage, this person mindscape, it is simply like this. It seems that it is the image that he has seen in his life that has imprinted in his mind to such a degree, or he must think about this thing too much and this much shock in his mind that it has made his mindscape as well. As Third Hokage simply shook his head. So where are the memories, and are you sure that this mindscape is not broken? As Inuichi at this point simply shook his head. I do not know, Lord Hokage, but there is a great chance that this mindscape is just as it is, and it is not broken or anything like that. But if it were to be the case, you would have seen cracks within the very reality or fabric of reality in this mindscape. As Third Hokage simply nodded at that as he said, alright, so where are the memories? As he simply nodded, well, we have to see about that, Lord Third. Why don't you follow me? As they simply started to walk away and suddenly they vanish. As Inuichi speak up, well, it seemed that somehow we are visiting the places of his mindscape, and they finally arrived to a graveyard, as it was a destroyed graveyard, but still there were way too many plates of names written in it. As Third Hokage started to look around the place, as he saw utter destruction in the graveyard, as well as he saw many faces, as one of the name almost skipped his heart. It was the name of his beloved grandson Konohamaru Sarutobi. As his eyes widened, and just you can say beside it, it was Asuma Sarutobi. As Sarukage's hands shake a little, while on the other hand he looked towards Inuichi. Inuichi, what is this? As Inuichi started to look around, as his eyes suddenly widened at one name, Ino Yamanaka, as well as you can say several other names of the Yamanaka clan, even the name of his friends Shikaku Nara and Choza Akamichi. As he was also quite surprised, and suddenly a you can say voice speak up. So it seemed that I knew that someone has entered into my mindscape, though I was not expecting you guys. And suddenly both you can say Inuichi Yamanaka and Hiruzen Sarutobi came to their guard, but they were surprised to see the very shinobi who was standing in front of them. But what took the attention of Hiruzen was the, you can say, blue eyes, the blonde hair, and three whisker marks on both of the side of his faces, as Hiruzen almost skipped a heartbeat. This was the face of Kushina, though the coloring was completely that of Minato, but this face ultimately matches to one person, and one person only. One that is known as the Uzumaki Naruto of this, you can say, of his world. As Hiruzen simply looked towards him, as Inuichi speak up, who are you? And what is this place? As Naruto simply looked towards both of them. It was nice seeing you once again, huh, Sarutobi-san? As Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by that? As trying to play cool at this point and trying to make some sense of the situation. But Naruto did not answer, simply you can say pointed towards one direction. As Hiruzen simply narrowed his eyes but nodded nonetheless and looked towards the direction as his heart once again, you can say, skip a beat as he saw his own name, the third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi. As Naruto simply looked towards both of them, as third Hokage at this point has already came up to a conclusion which was quite far-fetched, but it seemed that he has to test his theory as he said, so you are Naruto Uzumaki, aren't you? As Naruto did not say anything, he simply looked towards Hiruzen as he said, so what if I am? As Inoichi was about to say that how it was impossible or something like that, as Hiruzen said, you're from the future, aren't you? As Naruto simply looked towards him, well, technically, a possible future, because even if I have traveled back in time, I have not, you can say, overtaken my own body of the 13-year-old kid, or rather, I have came here physically, which means that I am from a possible future that will never happen ever again. And trust me when I say it, it's a good thing. As he looked towards the moon over Konoha, while on the other hand Hiruzen was silent for some time as he said, so how did you arrive here in the first place and why are you here? You should not mess with time travel and things like that. As Naruto simply shook his head. Well, trust me when I say it, there is nothing to mess with and there are no consequences that are not worth it. As while on the other hand Inoichi speak up, what are you talking about, Lord Hokage? Don't tell me you believe him. As Hiruzen simply shook his head, Inoichi, I did not told him before, but I have already tested the blood test on this guy and he has matched 100% with Uzumaki Naruto. I had my doubts, especially after seeing his face, especially those whisker marks and things like that. But now it has just confirmed it. As Naruto simply looked towards him, as they said, I'm still tired. And you guys are interfering with things. As Hiruzen simply looked towards him, do tell me why are you here? As Naruto simply did not say anything, he was still looking towards the moon. As he said, I will make a pathway for you guys. Even if I were to tell you, you will never understand the situation, the complicated situations. So, I will make a pathway for you guys into my memories. As Unichi speak up, and how do we even know that these memories are not fake or anything like that? As Naruto simply looked towards the moon, not even paying attention to Inoichi. If I'm not mistaken, someone as of your caliber can easily tell false memories and things like that. And now, I do not have time. I do not have energy to stay awakened at this point. I'm still way too much exhausted. After saying that, his, you can say, consciousness started to fade away as a pathway opened before Hiruzen could say anything. As Inoichi noticed that this was going directly towards the memories of this guy. As Hiruzen simply looked towards Inoichi and nodded. Nonetheless, after seeing the sleeping and disappearing form of Naruto, he was quite concerned what could have actually happened in the future. The kid, even though now a man in his eyes, but still, he simply cannot shake off the image of a 13-year-old kid after looking towards him. Simply, he wanted to know at this point, even against his better judgment, to not interfere with the, you can say, things like future and time travel and things like that. He had to do it if something has really bad happened. And Inoichi did say that something of, you can say, of such caliber had happened in the future that Naruto's mindscape has changed permanently into the destroyed form of Konoha, and he simply did not want to think about it. After all, something was telling him that how he's not gonna like the memories, but he simply looked towards Inoichi as both of them delved into far into the memories. As both Hiruzen and Inoichi saw the overall things, especially you can say the whole fourth grade ninja conflict, as they saw, you can say, overall things, not in complete detail, only the main events, which Naruto decided to show them. As after all of the, you can say, deaths of his friends, as Hiruzen, you can say, almost wanted to cry after seeing the dead body of his grandson, who has bravely sacrificed himself to take down the third Reikage Edo Tensei. and even the death of his, you can say, son, Asuma Sarutobi, and things like that. He was almost on the verge of crying. Even Inuichi was freely crying at this point after seeing the death of his family, the death of his precious daughter, Yamanaka. And in the end of all, both of them saw how the moon was finally falling towards the earth and the gigantic explosion that happened afterward. As Hiruzen saw the betrayal of his one student Orochimaru when he almost thought that how he would have, you can say, turned into the good side once again. But it was a mistake, a gigantic mistake, which simply cannot be changed into that future anymore because there was no future anymore to begin with, as all of both of them saw the utter destruction that was caused by the madness of one man known as Madara and things like that. And the final thing they saw was the, you can say, the utter destruction of the elemental nations, and after that, both of them were blasted out of the mindscape. As last thing they heard was a growl of get lost, and finally, they were back inside of their minds and bodies as both of them quickly moved away from Naruto. As Inuichi was freely crying at this point, even you can say Third Hokage was panting hard. This has taken a toll on their mind. As after some time, you can say Inuichi finally calmed down a little as he looked towards Hiruzen, who was also trying to pose a calm gesture, but Inoichi could already see the troubled expression on the face of the third Hokage. After all, who could blame the guy even though he's the Hokage? He has just seen the death of his own son, and on top of that, the death of his grandson, who is at this point is only 5 to 6 years old to begin with. As both of them look towards the unconscious body of Naruto, as Hiruzen has already made up, you can say, his theory, and it seemed that it was quite true to begin with. As he looked towards Inoichi, are you absolutely sure that these memories are not implanted or fake? As Inichi looked towards the guy, as there were too many things that simply cannot be implanted or things like that. It is literally impossible to create such memories, no matter how much of a genius a person could actually be. Even Inoichi Yamanaka simply cannot do or make such memories, such false memories to begin with. As he simply shook his head, I don't think that even I doubt that even my grandfather could have been able to do such a thing. These memories are not fake, Lord Hokage. They are definitely not a fake one. As after that, there was silence in the whole room. As Hiruzen, after some time, spoke up, Inoichi, this is a double S-rank secret. No matter what happened or what condition you may be in, never speak of this again. Am I understood? As Inoichi nodded at that. As Hiruzen speak up, you may leave, Inoichi. As Inoichi simply nodded and went off, still thinking about, you can say, the things he has seen in the future or the memories of that guy who supposedly has came from the future, but now there is little doubt about it. As Hiruzen simply looked towards, you can say, the unconscious body of Naruto Uzumaki, or you can say the person who has came from the future. As Hiruzen simply shook his head, it seemed that his mistakes are still taunting the world, as he should have killed Orochimaru all those years ago when he had the opportunity, but damn him, and now he has seen the future which was caused by his mistakes. As he simply shook his head, but now he has much to think about. He has seen overall things, the revival of Madara Uchiha from the Edo Tensei, and after the Rinnegan, which he still do not know where it came from, but still the Rinnegan that Madara possessed, and things like that. He simply shook his head. He needs more information, and the only person who can provide it, that is at the moment lying in his bed. As Hiruzen simply sighed, it will take some time for this Naruto to recover. But when he will, there is, you can say, a lot he has to answer. After all, he has to make sure about the things. He's not gonna let his village be destroyed, especially not gonna let his son Asuma and his grandson Konohamaru to die just like that. As he simply signaled some of the Ambu to guard the room, and when the patient wake up, inform him immediately. As the Ambu simply nodded at that and went off. A day has finally passed. In this time, Hiruzen was keeping a close eye on the hospital. He has even made sure that Danzo's drone did not even, you can say, move around from the area, even though some of the ambus from the route tried to get some information from here and there. But Hiruzen has ordered his best to take them down no matter what. He simply cannot let Danzo to you can say, to interfere with such a situation. If the world is at stake, he simply cannot trust Danzo at the moment, no matter what. As the man was worried, he was angry at himself. Some of the civilian council members tried to, you can say, arrange a meeting to, you can say, trying to punish the Uzumaki kid or some bullshit like that. As at that date, the council room finally saw the rat of the professor. Flashback for Hiruzen. As Hiruzen was worried, he was angry at himself. He has seen a possible future even though it will never be, but something that has already happened in an alternative reality, and it has only changed because Naruto has somehow obtained something called impossible. He has, you can say, went back in time, and this time the reality will be different, but there was a great chance because of his mistakes, and he was thinking about that, and he was angry at himself for allowing Orochimaru to roam free because of his weaknesses, because of his, you can say, love that he had for his, you can say, once favorite student. But now he was angry. He wanted to do something. He simply cannot let his son and his grandson to die just like that. As a Ambu landed beside him, as Hiruzen thought that he was gonna say something about that Naruto, the older one, he thought in his mind, has awoken up or something like that. But he speak up, which made Hiruzen irritated quite a lot. As they said, well, Lord Hokage, a council meeting has been summoned by the civilian council members. As Hiruzen simply scoffed at that. What do they want at the moment? As you can say, Ambu shivered a little. Well, Lord Hokage, the council meeting has already been summoned and the clan head and the shinobi council is there. As Hiruzen simply scoffed at that as he said, alright, I'll be there. As he simply vanished in a centurion and finally arrived in the council room. As all the council members saw the face which Hiruzen had, which was, you can say, that of a controlled anger, but most of the shinobis were able to notice that, such as Shikaku Nara and Shibi Aburame, as well as Danzo, as well as his, you can say, advisors, but they did not say anything, wondering what could have made, you can say, Hiruzen angry at this point. As Hiruzen speak up, so, what this meeting is all about? After taking his seat, as one of the, you can say, council members stood up, this member had a, you can say, pink hair as well as a large forehead, as she was Sakuyi Haruno. As she speak up, well, Lord Hokage, we of the civilian council member and the council are quite worried about the theft of the scroll of sealing. According to our information, we were told that how the deep, but before she could complete a sentence, as Hiruzen shot her a glare of such anger as well as a bit of bloodlust, she gulped a little. I mean that Uzumaki Naruto has stolen the scroll of sealing. So we thought that we discussed about his punishment and things like that. Surely we simply cannot allow him to become a shinobi after he has just stolen the scroll of sealing. This could be considered a treason, as all the, you can say, the council members simply nodded at that, while on the other hand the shinobi council members, before they could say anything, as Hiruzen speak up, who told you this information? At that, you can say there was silence in the room, as Sakuyi Haruno said, we have our resources, Lord Hokage. As Hiruzen suddenly stood up, as all the shinobi council as well as the clan heads were quite a bit intrigued at that, as he snapped his fingers, suddenly Ambu surrounded all the civilian council members. As Hiruzen speak up, I will ask you one last time, where did you get this information when I have myself restricted in this information to my Ambu? So, how did you get this information? I will ask you the last time. You are of that of the civilian council. You are civilians. Your job is to, you can say, take care of the civilians, not to meddle in the, you can say, affair of the shinobis. So, I will ask you the last time, where did you get this information? At this, all the civilian council members were sweating a bit. Even Danzo was looking a bit nervous at this point. After all, he was trying to get a bit of information about what actually happened, and he had heard that some person was admitted to the hospital, but he was not able to get the information, so he thought that the political means would be the way to, you can say, get a bit of information or something like that. But it seemed that somehow his, you can say, plan has backfired, as all the Shinobi Council members were silent at that. So you will not answer me, huh? Alright then, Dragon. As a Ambu landed beside him, take all of them to TI department where you have my full permission. Tell Anko and Ibiki that they have my full permission to get the information they have about this incident, who provided them the restricted information. Now take them away, as all the civilian council members were sweating hard. Even, you can say, Koharu speak up. Don't you think, Hiruzen, it's a bit, you can say, harsh of a punishment? As Hiruzen shot her a glare. He was not in the mood for this, you can say, bullshit and things like that. He has other things to deal with, as and they're simply wasting his time. As all the civilian council members started to scream that how they had the right or some bullshit like that, but Hiruzen listened to none, as he said, alright, this council meeting is adjourned. As Hamura speak up, but what about the punishment of the, but before he could complete his sentence, he was shot a glare from the Hokage as he speak up, this information, this case has already been handled by me, and if this council has so much time to meddle in such petty affairs, then surely they can take care of many other things as well, right? Such as the other DNAC missions which are piling on my desk. I am quite happy to distribute them among you guys as well. At this, there was silence in the room. As for the whole thing, it was already taken care of. Mizuki has turned out to be a traitor who tricked the Uzumaki, and according to the law, Uzumaki in Naruto was still a student and Mizuki was a senior, so he was simply following orders, and I have already taken care of the matter, so no more word about it. Now, do you have any other agenda to discuss of? As there was silence in the room. Very well then, now get out. As all of them were quite surprised at that, but they nodded nonetheless. They already took the, you can say, hint that the Hokage was angry at this point, so they did not wanted him to make him any more angry or furious towards them. So they simply disappeared from the room. While on the other hand, Danzo narrowed his eyes. He has to make some of the civilian council members shut, otherwise he will have a lot of trouble in his hand. Something was making, you can say, Hiruzen angry, and he did not want it to be on the path of his friend. So he simply vanished and ordered some of his root members to, you can say, stop their research at the moment. As Hiruzen finally arrived to the room, but then suddenly another Ambu landed beside him as he said, Lord Hokage, the patient has woken up. But before he could say anything, Hiruzen vanished from the room in a, you can say, swirl of leaves, as several Ambu tried to, you can say, catch up to him, but Hiruzen was already at the hospital. While on the other hand, Naruto, the future Naruto at this point, was simply blink a little as he started to, you can say, sit up, as he saw that his body was quite weakened at this point, as he started to think what was actually going on here, as he started to sense all the things that were around. After all, years of being a shinobi and on the battlefield, his senses increased a lot as Naruto closes his eyes, and within a blink of an eye, he has already entered into a sage mode. As his eyes shot open, he could sense Konoha, he could sense many other people that are supposed to be dead, his friends, but these chakra signatures of his friends were a lot weaker. But then he remembered suddenly all the things he remembered that happened in his mindscape. He saw Hiruzen Sarutobi as well as Ichi. He remembered all the discussion that actually happened in his mindscape as he narrowed his eyes. What is going on here, Kurama? As the voice crumbled a little as he said, well, quite the disturbing thing. To be honest, I have no idea. How is that even possible? But it seemed that Uchiha Madara tried to pull a, you can say, last minute stunt on you, or trying to survive himself or something like that, and it has somehow backfired. And his Rinnegan, thanks to that, you have somehow went back in time. But it seemed that you are here as a different entity, and I have not disappeared. Even though I have some theories about that, but nonetheless, you are here as a different entity, which means that this timeline is forever changed. As Naruto narrowed his eyes, So, all that I thought I saw in my mindscape, that was true. I have seen them as well, and I was the one who pushed them away from the mindscape. They were getting too much annoyance. As Naruto simply nodded, as he finally, you can say, cancel out his sage mode. As let out a small breath, his chakra reserves were already quite full at this point. He can easily leave the hospital, but it seemed that the Hokage would have some questions for him. So he waited for some time and be assured the Hokage has finally arrived. As Naruto was simply looking towards the ceiling, as Hiruzen finally arrived to the room. It seemed that you have finally woken up, huh? As Naruto did not say anything, he was still looking towards the whole ceiling and things like that. He closes his eyes, trying to sense who was around, but it seemed that the Hokage was, you can say, intelligent enough to seal away the room through his silencing seals. But just to be sure, Naruto is gonna also put his own sealing on top of that. But nonetheless, he spoke up. It seemed that I'm in the hospital. But if I'm not mistaken, this is the different section in which the prisoners are kept and Ambo guards on them as well, huh? Quite intriguing if you ask me. As Hiruzen did not say anything, after all, it was correct. This was, you can say, a small kind of prison. But nonetheless, he speak up. Don't worry about it. They will not hear us. After all, I have a lot of things to discuss with you. As Naruto looked towards him and trying to sense his emotions, as Naruto sensed, you can say, a bit of dread and quite intrigue, curiosity, dread, anger, as well as sorrow in his mind. As Naruto sighed, he could already tell what Haruka and Sarutobi wanted to ask him and his emotions. After all, years on battlefield does that to you. As Naruto sighed, as he said, so what do you want to ask me about? As Hiruzen simply steal his emotions, as he said, but before that, I want to put something on your head. This will make you to answer truthfully. As Naruto raised an eyebrow, are you talking about the seal that my father, Fourth Hokage, made so that the prisoners could answer only in truth? At this, Hiruzen stiffened a little. Did you really thought that I would made as a sixth Hokage without even knowing who my parents actually were, huh, old man? As at this, Hiruzen, you can say stiffened a little, but nonetheless nodded as he said, So you know about the information who's the parents of Naruto Uzumaki, but I cannot trust you without, you can say, putting the seal on your body that will force you to speak the truth only. As Naruto saw him, as I said, to be honest, it does not matter if I were to tell you all the things that has happened into my future because as I am in it right now, that future I came from is just a possibility that is no longer to be the case. So, very well, put the seal on me. After all, it will make you trust me anyways. As Hiruzen simply nodded at that and put the seal on Naruto's head. As Naruto said, Alright, what do you want to ask? Shoot up. As Hiruzen narrowed his eyes as he said, So, tell me, all those memories that are in your mind, are they implanted memories, false memories, or anything like that? As Naruto said, No, those are my own memories, all the things that I have gone through in my life. Though I presume you did not saw all of it, after all, it simply is not possible. As Hiruzen simply nodded at that, we have only seen the incidents that were too important to you. As Naruto simply nodded at that. As Hiruzen said, Alright, do tell me, are you the original Naruto Uzumaki and are you really from an alternative timeline? As Naruto was silent for some time as he said, Yes, but you got the name wrong. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, as I am the son of the fourth, so I had the name of Namikaze attached to it as well. As Hiruzen stiffened a little but nodded nonetheless. After all, the truth-speaking seal was making Naruto to, you can say, speak only the truth. So, he started to ask him many different questions as Naruto answered them all of them truthfully as Hiruzen at this point speak up. So, all of those things that I have seen has actually occurred in your timeline. The death of all those people, this destruction of Konoha, the death of my son and grandson. As Naruto looked towards Hiruzen, with a, you can say, a small pity in his eyes, as he said, Don't sweat about it. After all, in your time, or rather in this time, they are still alive. as Hiruzen simply looked towards Naruto, but it does not change anything. After all, if not of your arrival, there would have been no future. My children, my village would have been destroyed by the hands of that Madara. As he slammed, you can say, clenched his face at that name, which made him so much anger. As Naruto simply nodded at that. Well, that is the case, but you have to understand one thing. Since I have arrived here, this whole timeline has changed. The future that was supposed to be nothing, to be honest, actually. But still, the future that I have came from is no longer to be the case. Even if you were to just kill me right here and right now, which I can tell that a part of you was thinking that someone should not mess with time, and there was a possibility that you wanted to kill me, but after seeing the memories, my memory, you simply could not. Even though if you were to kill me, things will not, you can say, remain the same. Everything will go quite differently, but there is still a distinct possibility that the world would still be destroyed or would be under the control of Madara. So there will be nothing that you can actually change about that. As Hiruzen simply nodded at that, he could understand this whole timeline has already been changed with only the presence of Naruto in it. So it seemed that the future needs to change, otherwise there is no future to talk about. As Hiruzen thought it for some time, I simply cannot let you out as you are right now. People will mistake you for the fourth Hokage. As Naruto simply chuckled, well, I am the sixth Hokage from where I came from, but I consider myself to be the worst Hokage, saying that it was in my time when I was the ruler of the village, when the village was no more. As there was a small silence in the room as Hiruzen eyes gaining, you can say, a bit of softness as he said, it was not your mistake. After all, you did everything in that you could actually do. I saw the last battle, the final moments in which you were so happy that you have finally defeated Madara before he pulled that stunt of pulling the moon from his own axis towards the earth. After all, it was in your time you were able to keep the humanity safe from the clutches of the mad Uchiha, as Naruto did not say anything on that. So, what should I do about now? As Hiruzen said, well, I wanted to ask you the same thing. Though it would be a bit difficult, but you have to change your features. Maybe we can, as Naruto simply shook his head, I can do a also which will change my hair color as well as can make the whisker marks disappear. So, what other thing are you talking about? As Hiruzen thought it for some time, I would like to, you can say, as Naruto speak up, I can change the color of my hair. They can be changed into black and red if I so desire. As Hiruzen thought it for some time, I can make my whisker marks go away. And all other things, they simply can be changed. As Hiruzen said, well, there is still the matter of how you arrived here. I simply cannot say that you were a shinobi. And what would be your name? As Naruto was silent for some time as he spoke up, well, to be honest, I would like to join the forces of Konoha, though it could be a bit tricky, but all the things could be handled. But for the name, I would like to take the name of Arashi Aizen, as Hiruzen raised an eyebrow about it. Any reason about it? As Naruto thought it for some time. Well, he was a student of mine who, you can say, I myself has stand to his death. As Hiruzen was silent for some time. Well, quite the kid he was, asked me why all of them should follow me when my own father, the fourth Hokage, killed off his grandfather, who was in the 1000 shinobi that he slaughtered. As after that Hiruzen was silent for some time. To be honest, good kid. I will miss him. As Naruto thought it for some time, but he simply shook his head. We are getting off track at the moment. But as for the situation, that what will you say to the villagers and things like that? You do not have to say anything. Just tell them that I was a hunter named who has just came back from the whole situation from a failed double S rank mission after trying to hunt down some a group of S rank missing nin I was beaten down and finally arrived to the village, and you simply did not wanted other people to, you can say, find out about my situation, since the files of the Hunter Nin are only for the eyes of Hokage, because the Hunter Nin division do not contact with the normal forces of shinobi, because there is always a possibility that they will get close to some shinobi as a friend, and after that they will have to hunt them down, and it will affect their performance. As Hiruzen blinked a little, that little bit simply escaped his mind. Even Danzo would not have access to such, you can say, files, because those files are for the Hokage's eyes only. As Hiruzen simply nodded at that, and how do you know? But before he could say that, sixth Hokage, perhaps you've forgotten. As Hiruzen was silent, but simply nodded at that, this only, you can say, proves a lot of things even further. Else he simply decided to leave for now. But before he could leave, as Naruto speak up, in my time, Konohamaru died as a true shinobi. He was, you can say, he had truly had the will of fire, wanted to be the Hokage after me, and he died to be a true shinobi. You would have been proud of him, of the shinobi and a person he became. As Hiruzen was silent for some time but simply nodded nonetheless and decided to leave for now. After all, he has a lot to think about. As Naruto simply sighed, he did not plan to come to this timeline or whatever it was. To be honest, he was more than ready to die because he was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of all the conflict, tired of seeing the face of that accursed Uchiha over and over again taunting him that how he simply cannot win against him and all the things that has happened, and tired of it all. But it seemed that he had a new opportunity, but he will be different as a person. He will not be Uzumaki in Naruto. He will not be the Hokage. He will not be the leader of the forces. He will be a normal shinobi. Perhaps it will be for the good. After all, 6 years of leading the forces who are simply losing over and over again simply take a toll on him. So he simply cannot, you can say, consider himself to become the Hokage once again. At least not himself. Maybe his kid self would still want that, but he simply cannot have it anymore. As he closes his eye, decided to talk with his old friend Kurama at the moment. While on the other hand, Hiruzen was deep in thought, but it seemed that more he think about it, letting Naruto join the forces more, it became, you can say, a good thought, a good idea to begin with. As Hiruzen simply shook his head, but before he could say anything, the door suddenly slapped open as his grandson finally decided to step in, trying to throw a kunai or trying to so-called assassinate him or things like that. As Hiruzen looked towards the, you can say, body, small feature of his grandson who has just slipped from his scarf and finally was on the ground. As Hiruzen chuckled a little, but then the memory of the, you can say, his grandson's dead body came to his mind, that how he died, how his grave was made in Konoha and things like that. But he simply shook his head. That future was not to be. He will try his best. After all, another Naruto has came to this future and all the things would be different now, and finally he has finally came to the decision after seeing the, you can say, small feature, small body of his grandson. After all, that is what his grandson in that timeline would have wanted, right? As a result, what made determination was in the eye, as he simply smiled towards his grandson and decided to spend some time with his family and trying to mend up his broken relationship with Asuma Saratobi, his son. After all, both of them are not on speaking terms for years at this point. But he simply shook his head. He will not let that future repeat itself. As he simply smiled towards his grandson and went off to see his son at this point. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time he would be able to make the right decision and protect his family and his, you can say, future. And the future of the shinobi world and Konoha especially, as a small smile graces his lips. Sixth Hokage, huh? As he smiled for the last time. And yeah guys, here I will left this part. Hope you guys enjoyed it. For the next part, you guys already know the like goal is going to be 200 likes and 100 comments. Do that and I shall upload the next part as quick as possible. So yeah guys, please subscribe and subscribe. Peace.